morning, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. I have a couple of stories for you guys for your news updates for this morning on Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth to everyone. We're going to first talk about Karen Reid and how she walked free. And then we're going to move on to Tyler Perry because he is facing a $260 million lawsuit, as well as Israel is promising retaliation from the attack from Iran, as well as SpaceX Starship exploded again. And in the streets, the No Kings protest just became the largest single-day demonstration in U.S. history, with over 46 million people marching across 2,100 cities in defense of, as they stated in a report that I read, democracy, justice, and against authoritarianism. But I say that it's for illegal immigration. So let's jump right in, because the verdict on June 18th of this year, 45-year-old financial analyst Karen Reid was found not guilty of second-degree murder and manslaughter in the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, and instead convicted of DUI, receiving just 1 year probation. Prosecution theory is this. They claim she ran over him with her SUV and then abandoned him during a snowstorm. And the defense case argued that O'Keefe died in a fellow officer's home, framed by corrupt colleagues. And the jury dynamics when it comes to this particular story after a mistrial previously, the compromise verdict suggests they believe Reid was driving drunk, but didn't strike and leave him for dead. And of course, the public reactions and celebrations and outrage followed. Reid supporters cite privilege and narrative spin, because O'Keefe's family said it's a miscarriage of justice because they're the ones who are backing the blue. But no one's backing the blue on this. Everybody's supposedly happy for Karen Reid that she ran over a Boston police officer while she was DUI. She only got 1 year probation. She served, I don't even know if she served any jail time at all. I think she was at home the whole time. And she stated that she's elated that she received all types of emotional support, financial support from all different realms, from all different backgrounds on this particular case. So again, for you guys who was wondering about the Karen Reid story of her running over her Boston police officer, her boyfriend who was a Boston police officer, well, there you have it. And here's the thing about it. It states here that the jury did find her guilty of operating under the influence. They did find her guilty of operating under the influence, for which she received 1 year probation under a standard Massachusetts alcohol education program, okay? And it goes on to state that the verdict was met with cheers from hundreds gathered outside Norfolk County Superior Court in Dedham. The red addressed her backer saying, "No one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have in my team." She added she could not have stood trial without the support of those who stood by her financially and, more importantly, emotionally for almost 4 years. Inside the courthouse, she hugged her lawyer, Alan Jackson. So for you guys who was trying to figure out if Karen Reid was going to walk free, she did. Nonetheless, let's move on to no other than Tyler Perry. Now, this is the only movie of Tyler Perry. Now, he's not the director. Rob Cohen, I believe, was the director of this movie. He's actually the leading actor. Ben Alex Cross, I believe, is a police detective. This is by far the best movie I've seen. I don't really do celebrity news, but for this particular one, I wanted to point out because this is the only movie either he directed or he put his name on or that he was in that I actually enjoyed, okay? Now, Tyler Perry has been sued. Tyler Perry has been sued. There was a lawsuit filed on June 18th by actor Derek Dixon. He sued Tyler Perry and his studio for $260 million in the LA Superior Court. Now, the accusations, they allege a sustained pattern of quid pro quo harassment and sexual assault from 2019 to 2014 across shows like The Oval and Ruthless. And Perry's response that his attorney labels the lawsuit a fabricated scam and vows to fight this to the end. And the context is this. Dixon appeared in 85 episodes and filed with the EEOC in June of last year, claiming he feared career retaliation. Now, if you guys don't know too much about this particular one, let me to show you some of the text messages. Okay, this is coming from TMZ, these text messages allegedly. And this is Derek Dixon right here, if you guys are not familiar with this actor. So a lot of people watch these. Now, granted, I'm happy that he's successful, but do I support a lot of films and shows that Tyler Perry has produced and or directed? Not at all. Not at all. They denigrate Black American culture to the fullest. And if you guys watched that last movie called Straw, even though Gerard, I forgot her name, P. Henson, she did a wonderful job in acting, but again, it only shows the worst of Black American society. Think about other demographics of people. They have a different array of movies. They have uplifting movies, they have crime dramas, they have fantasy, they have inspirational movies. Just look at the amount of junk that comes out of Tyler Perry Studios. And I know, it's Juneteenth. Why are you talking down to a Black man? Because the truth is the truth. A lot of his shows and movies, while entertaining, is perpetuating a stereotype that defames Black culture. Do we have, or did we have some of the things that he depicts inside of his shows and movies? Absolutely. But every culture. But it seemed like he only gravitates towards the pain and the struggle of Black Americans, not the achievements and heights. I don't see that yet. And maybe there's one or two, but let's get into these text messages. Now, here are the text messages. The ones in blue are from Derek Dixon. The ones that are in black are from Tyler Perry. Let me read this for you if you can't see it closely on your screen. Now, from Derek Dixon, says, how do they make money then? Subscriptions? Tyler Perry responds, they make money from the advertising, lots of money. Then he goes right into, I love how I feel right now, but I don't like being horny. Testosterone? And Derek responds, oh yeah, from the doctor, but it is making you feel better. And Tyler says, I feel so good, but I don't like being horny. He stated that he doesn't like being horny. I feel sorry for the first person, not the first woman, not the first man, but the first person that flirts with me. And then Derek responds, LOL. And Tyler says, you don't even understand. Derek states, I know I need to smell the roses more. And then the bombshell. Tyler responds, you are the rose. What man calls another man a rose? I've heard men call other men, man, you a gem, but a rose? But you are so blocked that you refuse to be smelt or open. Now, it's very cryptic, right? It's almost like he's flirting with Derek and he's being very cryptic to expose himself fully. Again, people must understand when you text somebody and they screenshot it, they can post it anywhere in the world. Just give them a call next time. Just cover your six. But they can also get your phone records. I digress. Derek responds, this is sweet and I'm working on it. #therapy. I'm really scared that I'm going to waste my life worrying. Tyler says, been there, stopped somewhere, my late 30s, early 40s. And then Derek says, nice picture. Yeah, the water does look calm. And Tyler responds, nice picture, ? 4 question marks there. He said, yeah, great, amazing, awesome picture. He said, you don't see that stud in that nice picture? Rude. He said, LOL, yes, that's a stud. Now, supposedly Derek Dixon is a gay male as well. Supposedly, allegedly, he's a gay male as well. But you can tell there was no connection that Derek was trying to make with Tyler Perry. He was just having, very surface-like communication. So now Tyler Perry is in a lawsuit of sexual harassment and sexual allegations because Derek also stated that one time when he was sleeping at Tyler Perry's home, that Tyler Perry got into bed with Derek Dixon and started to grope him, allegedly. But I just wanted to bring you guys to this attention that eventually in a system of white supremacy, when they allow a certain demographic people to shine, and when you sell out your people, Tyler, of the degeneracy shows and movies that you make, what Malcolm X say? Soon the roosters will come home to roost. The chickens will come home to roost. Yes, indeed. Wow. So there was a strike on Israel from Iran. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, because this morning an Iranian ballistic missile struck a medical center in Israel, wounding 65 people and 3 very seriously. And the response from Israel, the defense minister, Israel Katz, labeled the strike a war crime, saying supreme leader of Iran can no longer be allowed to exist and will be held accountable. And there have been retaliation orders because, again, the defense minister Katz and the prime minister Benjamin Netanyahu instructed strikes on the Iranian strategic and power infrastructure targets, including the Iraq heavy water reactor. And there's just going to be global fallout because Europe and the U.S. urged diplomacy, and Iran threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz, civilian casualty mount in Gaza. And Hormuz is Hormuz. Okay, I know it sounds like Hamas, but it's Hormuz. Nonetheless, I want you guys to look at a lot of things that's going inside of that region right now. And most notably is this interview that I'm pretty sure is getting around the internet, is actually going viral, that Ted Cruz is very incompetent. And Ted Cruz was the wrong person, was the wrong senator, was the wrong politician to go and do an interview with no other than Tucker Carlson. Now, the thing behind this is that you guys know, if you're not new to Blacklogic, you know I don't trust any politician, right, left, center, green, blue, red, doesn't matter. I believe that in some regards, all politicians become corrupt or they become compromised. I don't think there's no way out of it. That's why a lot of people do not want to get in politics, because you have to play these games where you either become compromised or you end up becoming corrupt. Okay. Now, I just want you guys to hear this very quick clip, because I'm still watching the 2-hour, I think it's a 2-hour video of the stupidity of the politicians, but in this case, Ted Cruz, of some of the most basic information. Even I did a report of the population of Iran, as well as Hamas, as well as Palestine. And Ted Cruz, being a senator who in support of Israel, did not know the population of the country they're trying to topple. Let's get into this. I think this is important. Please listen in. Wow.
By the way, I don't know the population at all. No, I don't know the population. You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple? How many people live in Iran? 92 million. Okay. Yeah. How could you not know that? $92 million. Okay. Yeah. How could you not know that? I don't sit around memorizing population tables. Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government. I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran. You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government. You're the one who claims about the country. No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad. They're trying to murder Trump. Yes, I do. Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that, we're carrying out military strikes today. You said Israel was. Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that, because again, like I said, I'm still watching the full interview. But Tucker Carlson was right. The population of Iran is actually between 90 and 92 million people. Okay. But nonetheless, it shows the hypocrisy and the contradictions of certain political figures. And I kind of label them under a certain banner of corruption and contradictions. And this is what they do. This is why the American people really never knows the truth. That's why I go to multiple news agencies to find the truth, because some between the lies and the contradictions and the guise of politics, there lies the truth somewhere, especially when you have corroborating stories, no less. Okay. So I do want to make that very, very imperative that you guys are aware of that. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of this story as well, because again, another SpaceX Starship has exploded. This happened yesterday around 11 p.m. local time in Texas. SpaceX Starship 36 exploded in a massive fireball after a static fire test at Starbase, Texas. When it came to the safety protocols, they're stating that no injuries reported and all staff are safe and accounted for. But this is a historical setback. This marks yet another in a string of failures instead of its scheduled 10th test flight ahead of NASA's 2027 Artemis lunar mission. And the long-term vision with this, despite the explosion, SpaceX pushes forward with plans for Mars colonization and lunar deployment, having rebuilt resources from Dragon to support Starship development. Now, I'm a space junkie myself. I think space is the unknown frontier. But when we thought to speak about colonization of Mars, why? Mars is a big rock that takes, depending on when the Earth rotates and the gravitational pull, it can take you anywhere from 3 to 7 years, depending on when you leave to go to Mars. But Mars, we've had probes and satellites to examine Mars. That Mars is a big rock. Or people are like, oh, you can terraform Mars. Good luck. I mean, they have a very thin atmosphere. They don't have oxygen. You terraform. I mean, we've seen this in movies time and time again. Is it possible? Have we tried this in a very thin atmosphere that was created at NASA or SpaceX or Blue Origin, all these different space companies, or even at Virgin? We have all these different billionaire companies that is doing space exploration, but out of all of these, SpaceX is trying to reach Mars. Now, I won't say the only good thing, but one of the few good things when it comes to space exploration, whether it be Blue Origin, SpaceX, NASA, Virgin Galactic, it doesn't matter which one, that in this trying to achieve such a feat of reaching Mars with human beings and or autonomous robots, okay, with AI brains, that our technology will be advanced in the exploration of trying to reach these very, very far distances. So again, other than that, I don't think colonizing Mars is achievable because initially for the first 50 to 100 years, people are going to live in capsules. You ever guys seen that old movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger called Total Recall? And I believe that was Mars and they were trying to colonize Mars. Again, a far-fetched, but I am going to enjoy some of the technologies that is going to be pushed because of us trying to reach something that damn near seems very, very impossible. No kings. So the next No King protest is July 17th. But what they're stating here is that there have been a massive turnout because on June 14th, protests under the No Kings banner swept across 2,100 U.S. cities with a turnout between 46 million people. And they stand historically, if confirmed by ongoing studies, this would surpass the 2017's Women's March. That the previous numbers were anywhere from 3.3 to 5.6 million. And the motivations behind this is what they state the motivations are, built on concerns of authoritarianism and its direct response to second-term policy actions, including immigrant deportations and military involvement. Have you noticed they always say undocumented immigrants or just immigrant deportations? Voices across the nations are stating that these protesters from major cities and small towns, including Asheville, Politico, Lyons, voice concerns about Trump's acting like a monarch and local law enforcement largely allow peaceful assembly. Now, I'm in support of the deportation of illegal immigrants. But because people are exercising their constitutional right, and what I'm referencing is those people with legal statuses, when they start to speak out against the mass deportation and their protections are under the Constitution, the Trump administration start to revoke a lot of their visas as well as their legal resident status. And so, again, my advice would be if you want to stay in America, and you're not a U.S. citizen, right? If you're on some H-1B visa, work visa, or student visa, or you're a legal resident, Unfortunately, under this new administration, you don't have the same protections and right that you had under the Democrats. That as soon has been soaked up. Let's talk about Juneteenth very quickly. Let's talk about Juneteenth. But first, I want to give you guys the difference in flags that you may see during Juneteenth. This red, black, and green flag. And different people within the Black empowerment movement, they have their own take, but I just want to kind of give you a compare and contrast because we're talking about two flags. We're talking about this flag that you see as well as this flag. Very quickly, these two flags, one history, but which one tells the truth? Which one tells the truth? We're unpacking the powerful symbolism of Juneteenth through the lens of two flags, the widely promoted red, white, and blue Juneteenth flag versus the so-called revolutionary Pan-African red, black, and green flag. Now, for those foundational Black Americans, we don't associate ourselves anymore with the red, black, and green Pan-African flag because what you'll see is a total celebration of Black Americans wearing tribal cloth from Africa. But we've been here before 1526 in this country. So the only thing that we know of is that one, isn't everybody from Africa? Don't a lot of African people come from different countries? They have different cultures. They have different this. Why are Black Americans always tied to be African American? But Europeans that came over here from Europe in the early 14, 15, 1600s, you never hear the descendants call themselves European Americans. But for some reason, we've been here as long and longer than them, but somehow we're still African American. We're not just American or Black American. This is the dichotomy and duplicity of trying to tie someone to a continent they know nothing about. And even though we all stated through fossils and all other sorts of archaeology information and evidence that everyone derives from Africa. Let's get back on the flag. I don't want to go too far, too fast. Because this flag right here has been plastered across all sorts of, government offices. The Pan-African flag, also known as the RGB flag, created by the Universal Negro Improvement Association under the leadership of no other than Marcus Garvey in 1920. And this flag wasn't made for assimilation. It was made for reclamation, supposedly. And that the red symbolizes the blood that unites all people of African ancestry, and that the blood shed in the struggle for the liberation or our liberation. And black represents the color of the people, bold, proud, and unbroken. And that the green symbolizes the abundant natural wealth of Africa, whether it be stolen, exploited, but never forgotten. And this flag wasn't made to say we are American now. It was made to declare we are African people, survivors of the Marfa and the transatlantic Holocaust, and we are rising. So again, that's the flag that you see on your screen. Next, we have the Juneteenth flag. Now, this flag has been, again, plastered across government offices, schools, and even Walmart shelves. It's the Juneteenth flag that's blue on the top, red on the bottom, with a white star exploding in the middle. Now, don't get me wrong, it has meaning. Let's break it down. So the star represents Texas, where Juneteenth originated, and also symbolizes freedom for all enslaved people. The burst, the outline around the star, you guys see that? It is meant to symbolize a nova or a new beginning, freedom breaking through. Now, the arc that you see, the curvature across the flag, it represents a new horizon, hope for the future. And the colors, red, white, and blue, these colors were chosen to mirror the American flag to show that formerly enslaved people were now Americans too. So here's the heart of it. The red, white, and blue Juneteenth flag tries to fold us into America's story, which we're the bedrock and foundation of. It's a quiet declaration of belonging, a symbolic seat at the table. But the red, black, and green flag, while interesting enough, says that we are not just survivors, we are warriors, innovators, kings, and queens. Our freedom doesn't come from Lincoln's pen, it comes from our fight, our resistance, and our bloodline. That's why so many in the Black liberation movement reject the red, white, and blue, while others accept it. And when it comes to Juneteenth, because while the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1863, we didn't get the news in Texas until 1865, 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed that freed all enslaved people. And we still don't have justice in 2025. So we celebrate Juneteenth to honor our ancestors, but mostly the red, white, and blue, because we are foundational Black Americans. Now, with that being said, I think we should really break down Juneteenth. And as you guys see all these images, you see a lot of these, African cloth and traditional garments that does not represent our Americanness. Somehow we got lost along the way. But let me guys just inform you and educate for people who may not be familiar with Juneteenth. The day freedom finally came, not liberation. Liberation is something totally different. And why we must never forget Juneteenth and why we must recognize and or celebrate it. So, what is Juneteenth? Why does it carry so much weight? And why must every Black man, woman, and child understand and celebrate this day with righteous pride? The caveat is also for non-Black Americans to celebrate this as well. Because it was June 19th, 1865, the place, Galveston, Texas, the westernmost Confederate state where enslaved people from the continent of Africa and those indigenous Black Americans that were already here still toil under the brutal hand of bondage more than 2 years after President Lincoln has signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. Yes, you guys heard me right. The Emancipation Proclamation, which declared that all enslaved people in Confederate states were to be free and been in effect for over 2 years, was still in shackles and chains. But word didn't travel fast in those days, especially when slaveholders had every incentive to keep it hidden. So for hundreds of thousands of Black men and Black women and children in Texas, still enslaved, and still slavery was ruining and ruling their lives. Until that fateful day, because on June 19th, Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston with 2,000 troops, issued a General Order Number 3 declaring, the people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the executive of the United States, all slaves are free. And just like that, folks, the last vestiges of legal slavery was shattered. Juneteenth is more than a date. It's a spiritual rapture, a movement when stolen humanity was returned, even if it's imperfectly. It's not the 4th of July. If you guys ever read the 4th of July when it came to Frederick Douglass said, what is the 4th of July to a slave? That's because while we were gaining our independence from the British July 4th, 1776, Black Americans were still enslaved. We were still in shackles. We were still chained. That is why. That was Americans' independence, but not Black Americans' independence, because Juneteenth is our Independence Day, the day when freedom finally made its way to the deepest corners of the South. But don't get it twisted, guys. Freedom didn't mean equality. It didn't bring land and reparations and protection. Whether it be from those police officers who deal in white supremacy and police brutality against Black Americans. What followed were decades of Jim Crow, lynching, sharecropping, and systematic oppression, which still occurs today, even through the guise of equality. Because when we look at DEI and affirmative action, can anyone point out, because I just keep hearing people, non-Black immigrants, Black immigrants, state that, oh, you guys got DEI and affirmative action. Please show the evidence how DEI and affirmative action, all these initiatives that was passed, how it supported and uplifted Black Americans. Show us the evidence. Don't just give me side speech and word salad. Show us the evidence. But still, Juneteenth became a symbol of Black resilience, Black survival, and the fight for full citizenship. Because after 1865, newly freed Black folks began celebrating Juneteenth with church gatherings and barbecues and music and prayer services and family reunions. Even in my neighborhood, they're having a Juneteenth celebration. It became a sacred tradition, one that carried the whispers of our ancestors and the hope of future generations. They called it Jubilee Day. You guys are familiar with that. You probably heard Jubilee Day before, because even during segregation, even when Black history was erased from textbooks, Juneteenth lived in our homes, our churches, and our souls, mostly in the South. Believe it or not, I'm a native of Washington, D.C. Juneteenth was not popular in D.C. or Maryland or Virginia or New York. It was mostly popular in the southern states. And now, after centuries of struggle through the civil rights movement, the rise of Black power, and the call for justice, even after George Floyd's murder, Juneteenth has finally become a federal holiday as of 2021. Let's be clear that our celebration of Juneteenth is not a gift from the government. It's a birthright. We made Juneteenth sacred, not the state. They just authorized for people to be off on that day, did they not? So if you would have ever asked your question, why do we celebrate Juneteenth? Why do we celebrate it? Well, because it acknowledges the unfinished business of freedom. It also honors those who suffer without justice, who die without recognition. It is a moment to reclaim our narrative, to teach our children the truth, and to resist the whitewashing of our history. It also allowed us to pause, reflect, and recharge, because the fight for true liberation is far from being over. So to ignore Juneteenth is to forget the price that our ancestors paid in their blood, sweat, and tears. To dismiss it is to turn our backs on our own story. Juneteenth is not just about what happened in 1865. It's about every generation of Black Americans who have kept the flame of liberation burning, from Frederick Douglass to Fannie Lou Hamer, from the Black Panther Party to Marcus Garvey, to the Black Lives Matter movement, not the organization, to Malcolm X, from the cotton fields to corporate bear rooms. It's a day of truth telling, of healing, of protest, of pride. So this Juneteenth, celebrate it. Raise the Juneteenth flag, not the RBG flag. Hold your heads high. Because the story of Juneteenth is a story of us, unbroken, undefeated, and forever rising. I know they hate that. I know they hate that. We have to reclaim our narrative. And when we're talking about the whitewashing of our history, you see the eradication of Black history in Texas schools, in other quote unquote red states. And again, I'm not a Republican, conservative, liberal, Democrat, independent, Green Party, white party, red party, a horse, an elephant, a cow. I'm many of those things. I just want to give you guys the truth as I see it. So with that being said, I thank you for joining me here this morning. You guys have a great and happy Juneteenth. This is Blacklogic.